Have you ever had a moment so unexpected, so powerful, that it changed the way you looked at someone forever? A moment where the world outside disappeared, leaving only the two of you in a quiet, fragile bubble that no one else could touch. That's what happened to me one snowy week in the mountains. I never expected a simple trip with my son to become the turning point of my life, a story that still leaves me breathless to this day. The first time Ethan suggested renting a trailer and heading into the snowy mountains, I laughed, thinking he must have been joking. My son, all of 18, already tall and broad-shouldered, stood in our kitchen with that familiar grin. It was the same grin he used to flash when he was 10, trying to convince me to let him stay up past bedtime. "Come on, Mom," he said, twirling the car keys between his fingers, his blue eyes gleaming with mischief. "Just you and me. A week of snowy trails, hot cocoa, no phone calls, no stress. When's the last time we had that?" He wasn't wrong. Life had been a storm ever since the divorce. Between work, bills, and the never-ending weight of holding our small world together, I couldn't remember the last time I'd taken a deep breath. Something about the way he looked at me that night, his messy brown hair falling across his forehead, the spark of excitement in his eyes, made me realize I couldn't say no. Ethan planned everything. He rented the trailer, mapped the route, even built a playlist for the long drive. As we drove deeper into the mountains, the world outside shifted into a dream. Frost-covered pines blurred into streaks of silver, and the silence that filled the car was unlike any silence I'd known in years. It wasn't heavy. It wasn't lonely. It was peace. When we finally pulled into the tiny trailer park tucked away in a valley of snow, something inside me loosened. The mountains stretched endlessly around us, quiet and unbothered by the chaos of the world we had left behind. For the first time in years, I felt light. Our days unfolded in a rhythm I didn't know I'd been craving. Mornings were for hikes through powdery white trails. Afternoons meant cocoa, laughter, and board games by the fire. Nights were for stories, long conversations under a sky littered with stars so sharp they looked painted on. One evening, as the firelight flickered against his face, Ethan began to open up in a way he hadn't since childhood. He spoke of fears he had buried, dreams he hadn't dared to share, and thoughts that made him sound far older than his years. That was when I realized something. I wasn't just looking at my boy anymore. I was looking at the man he was becoming, strong, thoughtful, steady. A man I was proud of, but also a man who made me ache with a bittersweet longing. Where had the years gone? How had I missed so much while simply trying to survive? One night, after a long hike, I slipped on the ice near the trailer. Pain shot up my leg, sharp and blinding. Before I could cry out, Ethan was at my side. His arms scooped me up as if I weighed nothing, his jaw tight with worry. "Mom, don't move. I've got you." He carried me inside, his touch gentle, his presence overwhelming in its strength. As he set me down on the couch, elevating my leg with pillows, I felt an odd safety I hadn't felt in years. His hands lingered just a moment too long, brushing warmth into my cold skin. That night, fever crept into me. My body shook despite the heavy blankets. I called his name softly, and instantly, he was there. His hand pressed against my forehead, his eyes wide with fear. "You're burning up," he whispered, before climbing into bed beside me. He wrapped his arms around me, pulling the covers over us both. "You need to stay warm. I'm not leaving you." His body heat radiated into mine. My head rested against his chest, the steady thump of his heart calming the storm raging in me. I should have pulled away. I should have said something. But instead, I let myself sink into the safety of him. The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of him humming in the tiny kitchen. When he turned and handed me a steaming mug, his smile was so bright, so open, it nearly brought me to tears. Breakfast in bed, for my favorite hiking partner. The days that followed blurred into something tender and unspoken. Ethan never let me lift a finger. He cooked, cleaned, helped me hobble around, always patient, always present. But more than that, he looked at me differently. And I knew, though I tried to deny it, that I was looking at him differently, too. Then came the night everything changed. We sat side by side on the couch, the glow of the TV flickering softly across his face. My leg rested on pillows. His arm was draped across the back of the couch, his fingers close enough that I could feel their warmth. "Mom," he said finally, his voice low and uncertain. "There's something I need to tell you." I turned to him, my breath catching. "What is it?" He fidgeted with the blanket, his jaw tight, his eyes refusing to meet mine. "It feels different now. Us. I can't explain it, but I don't just see you as my mom anymore." The silence stretched until he finally looked at me, his eyes vulnerable, raw. "I love you. Not just as my mom. More than that." Tears stung my eyes. My heart pounded. I had felt it too, the shift, the closeness that wasn't just familial anymore. But hearing him say it cracked something inside me wide open. I reached for his hand, squeezing it. My voice broke as I whispered, "You mean more to me than you'll ever know." For a long time, we sat there, our hands clinging to each other, the snowy mountains pressing in on all sides. It felt like the world had fallen away, leaving only us. Later that night, as he tucked me into bed, he hesitated at the door. His voice was barely a whisper. "Would you want me to stay?" I don't know why I nodded. Maybe because I couldn't bear the thought of being alone anymore. Maybe because I already knew the truth of what was between us. He slipped under the blankets, took my hand again, and together we drifted into sleep as snow fell silently outside. In the days that followed, nothing was spoken, but everything had changed. The glances, the touches, the quiet way we leaned into each other, it all carried a new weight. One night, with his head resting against mine, Ethan whispered, "Do you ever wonder what it would be like if it was just us? No outside world. No rules. Just us." My eyes filled with tears as I whispered back, "That sounds peaceful." He turned to me then, his voice steady. "I don't think I've ever loved anyone the way I love you." The honesty in his words wrapped around my heart like the warmest blanket. I pulled him close, holding on as if letting go would break me. "I love you, too," I whispered. Not just a confession, but a promise. In that snowy mountain valley, the world had slipped away. All that was left was us and a bond one knew would never break. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us again for more. Until next time.